some
Just in case.
last minute stuff from our town attorney.
No, I mean, the order that's here in the Senate computer.
It's not just the first one that's pulled out and put in line.
No, not this one.
Yeah. Gotcha. Right.
All right, we are go for lunch.
Good evening and welcome to the September 13th, 2023 Henrietta Town Board meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Here.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Here.
Councilmember Page,
Here.
Councilmember Belanca,
Here.
Supervisor Schultz.
Here. We'll begin the meeting with a silent prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of August 30th, 2023.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek.
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Abstain.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. First up, we have special use permit application number 2023-034, Nepali Asian Restaurant, 201 Scottsville West Henrietta Road, to operate a restaurant serving food with traditional Nepali and Asian flavors. We have a representative from this application.
Yes, I'm here.
Could you introduce yourself, your relationship to the application, and tell us something about the restaurant?
Absolutely. Yeah, my name is Duke Carell, and I have 3 more friends who are willing to do their business in 201 Scottville, West Henrietta. It's Scottville, West Henrietta Road. We are trying to have a small restaurant that serve food, especially Nepali food and other Asian food.
Do any of you guys have experience in the restaurant business, or is this new?
Yes, well, it's been 1 year. I personally own one business in East Henrietta Road, which is restaurant as well, the Haveli Indian cuisine. So actually, and my friends are trying to invest with me, so we're trying to open the new location.
Great. And this is in the plaza that's also has Miller's Pharmacy, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Go ahead.
Yeah, has there ever been a restaurant or any food service in that plaza that you're aware of?
No, I believe it is a first time over there.
Okay.
Other questions? I'm just going through check-ins.
No, not for me. I was okay at the workshop with it.
Yep.
I don't have any questions.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, it looks pretty straightforward to me, and always a big supporter of we'll call mom and pop shops. So
There's very limited options over in that area, so
Yeah, I
it's
was
great
gonna
to
say.
see,
It's a great location.
yeah, it's great to see a new little restaurant go in over that area.
Yeah, and be happy to tell us when the launch date is and give us 50% off. So,
Yes, we would love to come and try it.
He's joking on the 50%.
I am so sorry. My internet went off.
Thank goodness nobody actually heard that.
Yeah. I will say though, as you get closer to being ready to open, if you contact me at supervisor@henrietta.org, I can hook you up with the Henrietta Chamber of Commerce. And they can help you organize a ribbon cutting.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you very much. We'll definitely contact you regarding of this process, and we'll do that for sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions?
No, look forward to having it as part of our Henrietta Market. So
Any comments from the public? Anybody else want to give feedback? Then hearing and seeing no further comments, I'm going to close the public hearing for special use permit application number 2023-034 Nepali Asian Restaurant. Someone wish to put forth a motion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to put forth a motion to approve application number 2023-034 Nepali Asian Restaurant, 201 Scottsville, West Henrietta Road, to operate a restaurant serving food with traditional Nepali and Asian flavors.
Seconded.
One thing that I didn't see, I don't know if I missed it. Let's open the wrong one. Hold on a second. I'm just looking for the check boxes for the restaurant special use permit. Do we have that? So
Hasn't been.
oh, here it is. Nothing's been checked. Okay, I did find, that's why I didn't see it.
Yes.
Okay, so a couple questions before we vote on this, just to make sure we check the boxes, so to speak. Are you planning to do sit-down meal service?
Yes, we are going to do a sit-down meal service.
Are you planning to do takeout meal service?
Yes, it's takeout and sit down as well.
Are you planning to have drive-through service?
No, no drive-through service.
Are you planning to have outdoor seating?
Probably, but we do not know yet.
Okay. So without a site plan for the outdoor seating, if you ever decide to add outdoor seating, you'll just have to come back to the town board to update your plan and your special use permit. The same thing goes, are you planning to serve alcohol?
Sounds good. I will definitely do that. Thank you very much.
There was a question in there. Were you planning to serve alcohol?
Not currently, but it might be in the future.
Okay. Thing you would have to come back to update your plan. And the last question, do you plan to have bands, DJs, or similar loud entertainment?
No.
Okay. So for this, we're going to assume that the boxes for sit-down meal service and takeout meal service are checked. Should we modify the resolution to make that clear, or? Okay. So then I am going to make a motion that we modify Mr. Page's approval to indicate that this approval is for sit-down and takeout service at the restaurant.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on that?
No.
Hearing none, then let's vote on the amending of the original resolution. Please call the roll.
Oh, Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
aye.
Councilmember Page.
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. So now we will be voting on the motion as amended. Any further comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page.
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Congratulations. Like I said, contact me as you're getting close, and I'll hook you up with the Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated, guys.
Bet. Take care.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Have a good one.
I'm gonna change the order slightly for the public hearings, because I'm gonna do the I will say the less controversial ones first, so that anyone's involved there doesn't have to sit through the others. So next up, we have a proposed public hearing for a proposed local law to amend the town code to revise provisions relating to environmental quality review. So basically, when this portion of code was first put in place, it referenced the then current that's referred to as SEQR, State Environmental Quality Review laws. Those laws are subject to change at the state. So we wanted to remove the actual hard coding of what was then in there and just reference the state, so that as the state changes, we don't have to constantly update our code. So that's all this changes. Is there anybody who wishes to comment on it? Probably not, but we have to ask. Okay. Hearing and seeing no further comments, I'm going to close the public hearing for the proposed local law to amend the town code to revise provisions relating to environmental quality review. Next up, we have a public hearing for a proposed local law to update the town code to remove imprisonment as a punishment for code violations. So a little history here. This goes back, I'm sure, long time in terms of the way code violations and other violations were handled. The thing that's always driven me crazy, $1,000 fine. Like for the ones that can offer up to $1,000 fine, they can offer up to 1 year in imprisonment. I don't know about you, but I don't find that those two things are equivalent. I find that a year's imprisonment for a code violation seems like excessive punishment and in violation of our Bill of Rights. So I really have a hard time seeing any basic code enforcement requiring imprisonment. So we're just looking to strip it all. That also simplifies the process at the court, because now there's no risk of imprisonment, which essentially elevates it in terms of the severity of the case. So anybody have any feedback on that? I know we've talked about this in the past. Everybody else agrees on the board that a year imprisonment for not mowing your lawn seems a little excessive. Not that we've done that, but it just shouldn't be on the books.
Doesn't need to be on the books.
Okay, hearing and seeing no further input, I'm going to close the public hearing on the proposed local law to update the town code to remove imprisonment and as a punishment for code violations. Next up, we have special use permit application number 2023-024, West Sunset Development LLC, West Henrietta Road, to construct a senior housing development with 2 26-unit apartment buildings and 4 4-unit ranch style apartments buildings with 4 units designed to accommodate the hearing impaired. I will note that that is now out of that application. That description is from the original application. They have since amended the application because we pushed back that there wasn't enough buffer space between the new development and the existing houses. So they've actually shrunk the development down. Instead of 4 4-unit ranch styles, there are now 3 6-unit ranch. No, right? Something like that. They've compressed it. They're small, it's taken up less space. But I will also note that there are still some issues with this, so we are not going to move on this tonight. But I always like to keep that, still hold the public hearing in case somebody showed up to offer comment on that solution. We're working in the 2019 update, the town board, 2019 update to the comprehensive land use plan. The town board added something called transitional buffers. And the concept is I've got existing properties developed and there's an empty field next to me and you don't know what's going to go in there sometime in 20 years down the road, something comes in. It's not fair to you that it ends up really close to your house, right? If that, let's say your house is adjacent to an industrial property. If you know that and you build your house there or buy the house there, you know about it. But if originally it was farmland, which is often the case, and it gets rezoned, that can create issues for the homeowner. So we added this concept of transitional buffers. And very simply, depending on what is already there and what's coming in, the greater that potential impact, the larger the buffer has to be. So in this case, they have to be 100 feet for the multifamily from the single family residents that are already there. So that's some of what they're going through, and how to push that stuff back, add sufficient vegetative buffers to kind of screen, and their plans just aren't there yet. So we're not going to rule on it. But again, if anybody's seen the updated plans and want to give us feedback, because we use that feedback to then inform the developer that here are some potential adverse conditions we've identified, and they need to fix their plans and mitigate that. So does anybody wish to offer comment on this application? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I'm going to close the session for special use permit application number 2023-024. But I'm going to keep the public hearing open because we fully expect this to be ready to go next. I guess our other option, if we don't think that, and I'm going to ask our town engineer, if we don't think they may be ready, the other option we have is to close it and then reopen it once we get the updated plans. You want to go that route, Chris?
Yeah, I think that'd be fine, Supervisor. We're also probably coming in for a special use permit for height,
Okay.
so we'll have a public hearing for that.
Okay, so since he's not at a mic, I'll just say that the town engineer informed me that they will probably have to come in for a special use permit application for the height. So when they have to advertise for that, we'll just advertise them for both. So with that said, then I am going to close the public hearing for special use permit application number 2023-024 West Sunset Development LLC, with the understanding that when we have their completed revised application, we will advertise for a new public hearing at that time. Which brings us to special use permit application number 2023.
Can I quickly interject for a second about the local law to remove imprisonment? I believe that town attorney has proposed a revision to that, and we wanted to keep that public hearing open for the next meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, I thought, in fact, I spoke with Jennifer about it, and she was
Was she gonna re-advertise?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought, Becky, is, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that she was gonna re-advertise for the updated local law.
Okay,
Keep it
okay,
open.
perfect. I wasn't, I know we were gonna re-advertise. I just wasn't sure if we were gonna keep the public hearing open, but we're just closing this one and reopening a new one.
sounds good.
That is
Okay.
correct. Yep, sorry, should have made that clear. Okay, so this brings us to the public hearing for special use permit application number 2023-032 Central Bark of Rochester, Katamari Properties LLC, 65 Saginaw Drive, to repurpose an existing 6,900 square foot building to be a doggy daycare, grooming and boarding facility with the sale of dog related products. And we have representatives if you wish to introduce yourselves, your relationship to the project, and then talk about the project.
Good evening. My name is Phil Clark.
And I'm Phil Clark Jr.
We should proceed.
Yep.
As I believe you are aware, we submitted a response letter today. This is my copy. I believe you all have copies. It is in response to the comments we received a day or so ago from Mr. Borshoff, and today from the Wilfers, I think I pronounced it right. The response letter is fairly long, fair amount of effort to put into it. I'm not going to try and go through the whole letter. I'll try to give you the highlights and then respond to questions. The letter is comprised, or the response is comprised of a 6-page letter, and then there's about an 8 or 10-page attachment appendix, which has more explicit question, answer. The letter is more a summary of the highlights of what we did, distilled out of the comments. I listed them, and then we go through each of them with a little bit more, with specific references. The major comment by Mr. Borshoff centered, not the only comment, centered on a study by the a 2016 study of noise inside dog kennels conducted by the Purdue University. We were not aware of that until the letter came in. We went online, we researched it, reread it. Interesting. Would point out that the study, however, is all about interior noise at kennels. Our facility does have some overnight boarding, but it is not a kennel. It's a doggy daycare. Dogs come in the morning as a group. They've been interviewed. They are socially acclimated to each other. They come in. They have play areas, nap areas, supervision. This is similar to Camp Bow Wow or Green Valley.
Green Valley Canine.
And then they have either an indoor or outdoor play area, and they go home at night. So while there are similarities to a kennel, there are some significant operational and behavioral differences. The information basically said kennels can be loud, can be noisy. They can. The protocols that we are employing recommended by Central Bark, our franchise operator, national franchise operator. I don't know that they came from the Purdue study, but there is a very significant correlation between what the Purdue study said ought to be done to mitigate, minimize internal noise and what we're planning to do in our facility. I could go through the
I'll just say, don't bother, because the operation of the kennel in terms of like what is the best way to care for dogs, it's not a consideration for special use permit, right? When restaurants come in, we don't analyze, you know what, there's a study that shows that eating at McDonald's is unhealthy for people who go there, right? It's a restaurant. Does it meet the requirements? Does it, you know, so.
Well, I'm not going to go through it, but it is relevant to internal noise and how the facility is designed so as to not transmit decibel for decibel, internal to external. We do cite some of the references as far as for context, noise levels, motorcycle, traffic, landscape equipment, office. That's all from our past response. That's not new information. And we talk about the noise, the exterior noise levels. And in particular, the outdoor play area. Our operation is very similar to Camp Bow Wow and Evergreen Canine.
Green Valley Canine.
Green Valley. We're using, never mind. Anyway, it's very similar. The Green Valley is a larger facility, but our facility is, as far as size, number of dogs to be handled, very similar to Camp Bow Wow. Only our exterior operation is limited to 40 dogs, not 100 or not 91. 91 is the capacity of our facility inside. There's an interior play area. The noise level outside, what were you saying? Anyway, the noise levels outside will be contained in the play area, which has an AstroTurf, and the AstroTurf has an under drainage system, as much for drainage as it is for bedding, so the surface is smooth. It's contained, it will be contained, encircled, enclosed by an 8-foot high rigid plastic fence. You've seen many of these typical around. They're white. They're very attractive. Solid. It is not a chain link fence with tarps, which is an alternative anyway. It's enclosed. The fence will go to the ground, to the turf. Will be snug, quote unquote snug, so as to not have the dogs trying to get underneath, which they can't. It's not soil, it's turf, artificial turf. They are supervised. The play groups are 12 dogs to 1. I'd like to let my son talk a little bit about the management protocol to with the enrichment specialist, which is the supervisor. I did not come up with that term.
Yeah, so the enrichment specialists are essentially the employees that are caring for the dog while they are in the facility. Again, is a 12 to 1 ratio. My father a second ago compared us to Camp Bow Wow. A drastic difference between the two is Camp Bow Wow does not have nap rooms or sleeping areas for dogs. What that means is these interior. What that means is these dogs are playing for 8 hours at a time, getting no breaks, getting overstimulated, all of those things, and frankly, aroused and barking a lot. Even with our model, it is required by our franchisor to have a 1-to-1 play to nap schedule. And what that means, hours. What that means is the dogs will be sleeping or resting for half of the time they're there. So therefore, when they're out playing, either inside or outside, it's literally half of the time and half of the dogs. And the reason for this is for safety. While barking and noise is a complement of that, the biggest reason is for safety, to ensure that dogs do not get overstressed or things of that nature, to keep noise low.
So to correlate interior noise with exterior noise is interesting, but not applicable. The exterior, and if we did an anecdotal noise study at Bow Wow and Green Valley. They have noise levels that were comparable to what is in the literature, comparable what's ambient noise level right now, much lower than the car wash that's on Saginaw, or significantly lower than the car wash, and the levels that we expect. And since our operation is, while similar, is significantly different, our exterior operation is probably more similar to Green Valley as far as size. They admittedly have larger spaces than we do. We expect that they will be fully compliant with any reasonable noise standard and compliant with the experience for Bow Wow and Green Valley. There have been Bow Wow's been in operation for 16 years. There's no history of any noise complaints or noise problem. We also have a noise study that was in our previous submission from Central Bark that cited 4 facilities they did a noise study in the Milwaukee area. That's where they're headquartered, and had no problems, no issues.
That was at Fort Lauderdale. The noise study was at Fort Lauderdale.
Stand corrected, Fort Lauderdale. We have a letter from the Director of Operations who supervises 38 facilities, which are the current headcount for Central Bark. Again, certifying no history of any noise complaints. So we're quite confident that our outside noise levels will be reasonable, will be consistent with what is experienced already. Much more much more appropriate than motorcycles. Interestingly, one of the noise counts at Green Valley was 107 decibels, the high, but it was caused by a motorcycle going down the road. Motorcycles, the normal level for motorcycle is about 100. Our measurement was, so I think that also validates and calibrates our study.
I'd like to say something. Mr. Borshoff mentioned Camp Bow Wow and the neighbors associated with Home Depot, I believe, backing up to them and some of the trucks around them. What he admitted to say is that the building that Camp Bow Wow is in shares the building with Revel Woods. It's another business that is customer facing, and customers go in, they literally share the same building, and there's been no noise complaints from them.
I'll also point out that across the street is Young's Korean Restaurant. To the east is AJ's Beer Warehouse. There's a Staples Customer Service and Fulfillment Center. So there are, contrary to the assertions, there are a lot of commercial entities in that area too, which is actually part of the Genesee Valley Regional Market. So it's not like
Not
it was
noisy.
on Commerce Drive, which is what I'll call our heavy industrial portion of town.
Talked about, I mentioned the fence. In addition to a visual shield, it will attenuate sound, not totally, but significantly. It also, and I'll talk more on surface drainage. It also, I said, it would be snug to the ground. It'd be snug to the ground to help contain any, say, if there was a heavy rainstorm, the dogs would be inside, but if just surface water, instead of being surface flow, it would be contained inside. It still will perk into the ground, the surface water, but the fencing will serve somewhat, and that's not the purpose of it, but that's a consequence of it. I would say personally, I'm a licensed civil engineer, so I don't
Right.
do it very often anymore. I do remember a few things about stormwater drainage.
So I will note that, one of the requirements will be that the plan you proposed with the perforated pipe and the bedded, that will go through a review by our Department of Engineering and Planning to ensure that, it meets all of our current stormwater management requirements with regards to runoff and percolation. For those who aren't aware, now they'll be cleaning up the feces, any feces that's dropped in the yard, but in most people who own dogs, it can sit there. Someone had said something about that it's against a violation of our MS4 requirements to have it run into the stormwater. That isn't what the plan's called for, or to the storm sewer. It is a percolation system, which is essentially how it works in everybody's yard who owns a dog. The waste product percolates down into the soil. The soil contains microbes which actually digest that. And essentially that's why our streams aren't full of dog urine and dog feces, because the percolation system.
Right.
Oh, by the way, any of you are on septic systems, it works the exact same way. Your leach field does exactly that. The water leaches out into the soil, it percolates through the soil, and that's how it's purified. So, as we normally do, anytime there's that type of stormwater, I'll call it stormwater management for lack of a better way to describe it, it does require that be approved by our engineering and planning department. So
Just to amplify what you're saying, if a dog does have a drop feces, it's picked up virtually immediately. That's why we have the 12-to-1, the one enhancement specialist. It's not there for a couple hours and you get around to it, like it might be in your own backyard or something. And since this is turf, we have a disinfectant. I'm not going to pass a quiz on what it is, but I know it's user friendly. It's using wastewater treatment plants. It's not acid or bleach, but that would be sprayed at the time so that the solid matter is not going to. And if the dog is seen urinating, same practice. I'm not going to pick up the urine, but you're going to wash it down, and then nightly the areas are all washed down. Odor, and I'm talking about waste disposal and odor. I think I did just talk about waste disposal. The disinfectant also, here it is, GOT-P odor eliminator, quote unquote. That's the trade name. Non-bleach, environmentally friendly product that disinfects and deodorizes.
As we said before, part of the reason why we picked Central Bark as our franchisor is because their main focus is dog safety. They've been around since 1997, and they were the first and original franchisor for doggy daycares. They pride themselves on dog safety. And because of that, any cleaning products, and specifically this one that we referenced here, must be as safe as possible for dogs. Being safe for dogs is safe for the employees, is safe for the community. We intentionally picked forever long canine turf. That is the best.
Cadillac.
It's the Cadillac of turf that there is. And per the turf website, they recommend specifically using this GOT-P odor eliminator, which
We didn't make up the name.
which further coincides with Central Bark's dog safety policies. So the intent is for the safety of the dog, but the natural consequences to mitigate odor and obviously any potential stormwater runoff concerns.
This comments are all relative to the outdoor. Just a quick comment on the indoor. A very similar procedure. The dog does have an accident, it's clean on, we have the flooring. It's not a carpet, it's called Protect, it's a trade name. Protect All Flooring. It's a vinyl flooring, probably has a finish similar to this tabletop, about an 1/8 inch thick, it's glued down. It's, I wouldn't say it's buoyant, but it's not slick, not slick like that countertop. It's for the dogs, joints, the health of the dogs, you know, and their claws, they don't get, but it also has an attenuating characteristic for sound. And if there is an accident, urine or feces is washed away, or not the urine, it's mopped up and the feces are cleaned up, and then there's the same disinfecting procedure. And both inside and outside areas are then washed and disinfected in total daily in the evening.
It's worth noting that the daily cleaning is done not by machinery. It's done through a mop to mitigate noise. Furthermore, the cleaning is done after the dogs have either left the building or are in their nap areas for sleeping, so they're not stimulated for further barking.
I will admit, at one point, we considered a mechanical, I saw it at Home Depot, like somebody said, get a mini Zamboni. And actually, that's the way the floors, similar floors in at least Home Depot are cleaned with this machine. We're not doing that. We're doing it by hand, but runoff. In presumption or a concern about additional runoff, there would be no additional site runoff. The impervious part of the property, the footprint, asphalt building, is unchanged. There's whatever it is, it is.
We actually, let me just interject here. We did take a look at the LiDAR, and there is a low point in the parking lot where the stormwater drain is to collect the runoff from the impervious surface of the parking lot.
Correct.
When you get to the wooded areas to the north, they follow a gentle slope, I believe, to the northwest. That hasn't changed, but you're also, to my knowledge, not planning on having dogs back in the wooded area. So
The only change is the 2,250 square foot for the enclosed play area will have a higher permeability than there now. I do not suggest that it's going to make a material reduction in the stormwater, whatever site conditions, but it will have some, and it certainly will not have an increased in any increase.
well, as I said, that the approval of that outdoor, so you won't be able to get a building permit to start building that, put up the fence and that stuff until you have an approved stormwater plan by our Department of Engineering and Planning.
Okay. A comment that came up at one point, and it's repeated from the previous response, concern or what we perceived was a concern about if we are granted a permit and then we sell the facility, which is not our plan. We have a 10-year license from Central Bark, a 10-year lease. Both are renewable for an additional 10 years. I don't think I'll see the second 10-year tenure, but our plan is to be there. His plan is to be there for 20 years. Should, however, it be somebody makes a deal you can't refuse, and we sold our rights and it was approved by the franchisor, any permit conditions issued for this site would go, say it's to him. They go with the site, not the operator.
Yep, that is correct.
fair amount of concern about the picnic area on the adjacent property. 71 Saginaw Drive. We comment the site, the picnic area, not on our property, on the adjacent property. It's about 80 to 90 feet from the western wall of the enclosure I've been talking about.
That is also noted in the appendix where we took a Google map,
Yeah, you did.
the difference.
And I know why he's not an engineer now. Additionally, there's concern has been raised that we have two exterior overhead doors. It was a loading dock, similar to right where the reference was made to the stormwater inlet drain. There's a loading dock there. It has a door on the west side and a door on the north side. Reference was made to, or concern was expressed about the doors are open. All the interior noise is going to come out. The doors are not going to be open. The door occasionally for a short period of time, when you get a delivery, they'll be open to bring stuff in. We're not going to come into the front door. But probably 95% of the time, or other than those short periods for delivery, the doors will stay closed. The reason they're going to stay closed is in addition to those two, on the inside, there's a third door. Has a man door through it, but a third door. So those three doors collectively comprise one of our play areas for what we refer to as stay and play. There's two types of dogs in this facility. There's stay and play, which are really overnight boarding dogs. They don't pass the test to be integrated into the social pack,
In the daycare.
or haven't yet passed it. And the others are stay and play and
Doggy daycare.
daycare dogs. Those come and go every day. They get the preferred play areas outside, inside. But the stay and play have an area outside a little bit smaller, one dog per play area, not a group of 12. And they have this interior area that's enclosed by these three doors. The doors have to stay closed. The interior door stays closed because there's an air conditioned space inside. Secondly, the three of them stay closed because that's a play area. The exterior doors will not be open as a part of our operation.
And we've made that a condition of the approval that essentially they're only open for deliveries.
Also of note, relative to the adjacent picnic area, there is an existing, I would call it, tree and shrub screen. It's not perfect, but it's there, it exists. We also are proposing now, we didn't the last time, to add some evergreens to it, probably arborvitae. They won't instantaneously do, but in a couple of years, they grow very fast and further flesh out the screen.
I would recommend, we've seen some properties have very good success with green giant arborvitae. They seem to be less tasty to deer, for lack of a better way to put it. So even in some areas that are heavily trafficked by deer, they have survived, whereas other arborvitae get eaten to the bone. And they do grow extremely quickly, and they flesh out so that they essentially form a full wall. If you have any questions on the spacing, there's a couple properties that have done this to create a vegetative wall, and we can show you. We actually are fortunate enough in Google Earth. They happened to plant them at the time that they did the first street drive-through to take the street images on the side street. And then they did the main street more recently, like 7 years later, and they're now like 16 feet tall. So you can actually see the original planting and 7 years later them being magnificently tall, but it gives you a good feel for what the spacing should be to achieve that final outcome. So
They work. We will retain my wife, his mother, to figure out the spacing. We put them on our property, which we sold about 6 months ago. And we had horses next, Jason, and they were there to shield from the horses, and there was some manure odor. Anyway, I have a personal expert on
great
spacing of we can go through we're a good neighbor. The other concerns of adjacent properties
I'm sorry,
further
I've got to
away.
interrupt. You said you have a personal expert on. And you moved on to a completely different topic. What do you have a personal expert on? What are we talking about?
I was kidding. I was referring to my wife and she,
The planting of the arborvitae.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, that wasn't entirely clear to me.
my wife probably would not appreciate my comment either. Concern was expressed about dogs escaping or being outside being walked. Why don't you speak to both?
So Central Bark, again, why we chose them is because of their safety protocols. They have a 2-door policy where a gate or door, 2 of them must be in between the dog and the outside area at all times. I think the latest comments by the neighbors were in regards to the 5-foot strip of grass just, what is that, east to 71 Saginaw. There's 5 foot of grass right there. We will put signage in the grass there that customers cannot walk their dogs there or allow them to go to the bathroom there. We will put that signage there to make sure that's the case and monitor that.
But they're also not going to have to take dogs on a walk. They're not going to go out for individual walking of the dog. The rear area, I would say, is probably a half acre. And we're only using 2,200 square feet for the play areas. It would be a reasonable presumption to take the dog one-on-one out. That's not part of our operation. It's just, that doesn't, not what we do.
Dog walking is not part of the business model.
I spoke about the loading docks. Mitigation measures or operating standards will on the average be 75 decibel in the morning, during the day, 65 at night. The maximum dogs out.
You missed this.
No, I don't want to go through that level. Yeah, I can come back to it. It's 40 dogs maximum at any time outside. Play areas will have turf. The outside play areas will have turf, we've spoken about. Under drain with an 8 inches of crushed stone and crushed limestone. That will absorb material, and then further below that, we will have 3 drainage tiles to, if there is, the purpose is not to intercept the leachate or the percolate or whatever term you want that's going through. But if there is intense rainstorm and it overloads the absorption capacity for a short period of time, the intent is to absorb that excess surface water that has perked through and take it over to the storm inlet that you mentioned. In summary, we envision we will operate like the existing facilities in the town. We will not exceed 40 dogs in the outside area. We will not exceed your noise standards for industrial areas. We will not cause any waste disposal or odor issues. We will not increase the stormwater runoff. We will not impact the picnic area on the adjacent property. We will comply with all special use permit conditions, and we will be a good neighbor. Another comment was about, which I didn't list right there, someplace in this document, we have it about, would we, in essence, would we diminish property values by, speak to it.
Yeah. Before we get into property values, I'd like to talk about my personal involvement in this as well, too. As my father said before, we signed a 10-year franchise agreement and we're looking to sign a 10-year lease with an option renewal. I plan to be owner operator. I plan to be there all the time. I was in corporate America for 15 years. I'm looking to kind of do a change in my life. So this is extremely important to myself and my family. There was a comment in here as well that there was concern that this would be a low cost, high profit operation. It is worth noting that our current budget for investment is between $825,000 and $850,000. Of that, between my father and I, we're each investing our own money of $200,000. For me, at my age, $200,000 is a huge portion of my personal portfolio. So I am giving this 1,000% of my heart and soul, basically, because I have such passion about dogs and in the community.
You better, I'm investing 200,000 too. Comment was, I thought he was going to go about the low budget, high profit. We plan to be here for a long time, to have a good operation. Right now, there's a huge market for doggy daycare. However, markets change. It's important to us that we establish a quality facility from the get-go, that we retain that. Customer service is important. Having the right people. Why don't you just, as an anecdote, tell about the one person we appear to have agreed to, the woman that had a cleaning service, and
Yeah,
this is an anecdotal illustrative example.
part of the employee staff is going to be owner operator, manager, groomer, and enrichment specialist. Enrichment, when we're looking for enrichment specialists, these are could potentially be college age students, part-time workers, things of that nature. But one of the applicant pool that we're targeting is, people say in their 50s or 60s. And we've had people come to us saying that they want to leave the jobs that they're working in cleaning houses and retire per se into this job because it's just their passion. So we're looking to hire people that love dogs as much as I do and want to do this as more than just a job. And we feel confident that we're going to be able to find those type of people.
For the sake of moving the meeting along, I'll also note that profitability is not a consideration,
No, I didn't say
special
that.
use permits. So you don't need to defend that statement any further.
The last thing I said is the neighbor used the Purdue study extensively in their responses. And I appreciate them bringing that article to our attention because we did not see it before. And as my dad said earlier, after going through the article very thoroughly, Central Bark has created their policies and procedures very similar to this. And it makes me feel that much more confident that this study, while it's mostly for indoor kennels, is spot on for what we're looking to do. So that makes me feel really good. And we have a lot more information in this appendix that specifically calls out some of the comments that were made and how we are addressing those. I think for the sake of time, we're not going to go through that again. But if there are any questions, we're happy to answer anything.
Yeah, so one of the questions I have from the outside appearance, it looks like your walls are all masonry. Is that correct?
Our walls are all what?
Masonry, so either cinder block or
The existing
brick.
building walls, other than
Correct.
those loading dock doors, are masonry.
are the loading docks doors by any chance insulated?
Not yet.
Not yet.
If it turns out they are not, they can be. And if that's becomes necessary, we will.
Yeah, so that might be one of the changes. If we do find that there is noise escaping through the uninsulated doors, you may even want to do it. If that area is going to be air conditioned, you're probably going to want to do it anyway. Is to put in insulated doors, which will again help from the air conditioning, your energy consumption standpoint, but will also help from sound attenuation. In terms of the cinder block,
To your point, it occurred to me to exactly what you're saying, that we might need to. The existing doors insulation can be adhered to. I mean, the door goes up and then, it bends and stuff,
Yeah.
but you can get panels. So it is very doable to do what you just said.
that's all I have. Others?
I just have a simple question. Nap area. Explain to me how the nap area works.
So on the west side of the building, there's two areas. There's the nap area and there is the stay and play sleeping area. The nap area is designed for the doggy daycare dogs. As we mentioned before, there's a 1 to 1 hour
Right.
schedule, play to nap. So if the first hour, half of the dogs are playing, then the other half of the dogs are in the nap area. The nap area is an enclosed room that we are constructing inside the building that is conditioned as well, HVAC. And actually, thank you for bringing this up. The other thing that's worth noting too is the crates that we are purchasing are from Midmark, which is one of the more well-established dog manufacturing companies in the country. And we are purchasing Sani kennels and essentially top of the line cages. And these containment cages, for lack of a better word, are essentially their own little room where they can't see each other and they're individualized just for themselves. So they have an individual room in the cage inside of an enclosed building itself for the nap room. Does that answer your question?
It does, because I was trying to see how you were doing this. Were you going to just have, like what do I call it? Like a metal cage that you could see through and then they're all barking at each other. But if they're enclosed, it's basically like a timeout room. So-
Correct.
You've been
Okay.
to,
And what you said timeout is exactly right. So part of the protocols for staffing, and we mentioned this before in the report, but if a dog is barking, it can be repetitive barking and they can stimulate the other dogs. We have a lot of mitigation measures to get around that. First being recall, come here, Fido, giving them treats or playing fetch. If the dog continues to bark, we put them in a timeout in the nap room. And that timeout in the nap room is their designated area for when they would be napping anyways. We pull them out of the daycare first and put them in their nap area. And then if the dog continues to be a threat to other dogs because of the barking, again, not because of the noise, but because of the safety, we have the right to dismiss the dog.
Okay.
from being, the dogs have to be enrolled, they have to be interviewed. He does that. And
There's a behavioral assessment program before they're admitted.
Right.
if you've been to Lollipop Farms, we're a little bit cleaner and different, but broadly stated, the way their kennels, their cages are set up, they don't have the outdoor play areas. There's a parallel to what, they're individual in an enclosed room.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the town board?
Yeah, very, very early in the presentation, you were talking about noise, and I believe you said we did an anecdotal study on the noise. What's an anecdotal study on the noise look like?
By anecdotal, it was, Philip did the study. He can explain it. It was for a modest period of time. That's hence the word, my word, anecdotal. It wasn't for 24-hour period of time. Why don't you explain what?
So there's two studies. There's one that was conducted by Central Bark, the franchisor, in, I believe, 2004 in Fort Lauderdale. And there was a professional company that did the study and called out the decibels that were reported. And that is listed in the initial response about 2 weeks ago. Since then, I downloaded an application called Go Decibel on my phone and went to 65 Saginaw to get ambient levels. I went to Camp Bow Wow during peak hours per se, after 9 a.m. in the morning. I went to Green Valley Canine at 10:30 in the morning, and this was all in the same day when it was 75 degrees and sunny. So no concern of clouds and stuff bouncing like that. We also went to the car wash down the street on Saginaw and recorded decibel sounds of when a car wash was going through. And I think that's it. But the one thing that I think it is worth noting, and again, going back to the 2016 Purdue University study that the neighbors provided for us, in the conclusion of that report, it specifically says that a practical way to record noise is to use smartphones and applications on the smartphone. It says that in the 2016 Purdue study.
So I assume you just mean by anecdotal, it is not statistically exhaustive, that your sample set isn't large enough.
That's
Right,
Hence my word, anecdotal.
right.
And I gotta tell you, as a Golden Domer, when I hear Purdue, we call it Perdon't. I'm somebody to say that. You mentioned something also.
I will note
about-
that the applicant didn't provide that was the people fighting against it was supplied to Purdue
So
or Purdue.
we can also take Perdon't. Love me some Drew Brees when he played in the NFL. You mentioned, I think the decibel level of 107 for motorcycles was the number that you gave. How long does a motorcycle travel past my house when I hear it at 107 decibels?
Oh, what? Didn't understand your question.
How long would the decibel level be at 107 as the motorcycle passed your house? Is that your question?
Yeah,
My answer is we cannot specifically say. My assumption is when the motorcycle is as close as possible to your house, probably perfectly perpendicular, that is probably the moment in time that is 107. And as the motorcycle is either farther away coming towards the house or leaving the house, the decibels go down.
so it would be fair to say that it's probably a pretty short period of time, right? And I'm gonna hear it go by and then it's gone.
Correct.
How about the dog barking across the street from me?
A dog barking
How
across,
long does that dog bark
well,
at whatever decibel level we're talking about?
yeah, and our studies show again that given the distance, the measures that we put in, both from an operating procedure as well as an infrastructure perspective, inside the kennel, the Purdue study specifically states that the average decibels are between 85 and 122. Outside at the same time is not going to be the same thing. And furthermore, with the outdoor dogs, as we said, we are going to be having an 8-foot fence, solid fence as well. So dogs will not be able to see any distractions for stimulation barking, and our protocols in place for safety reasons so that if the dog is over barking, is we bring them inside. And our studies have shown, as well as the official study done in 2004 by Fort Lauderdale, that the average noise decibels did not exceed 75.
Okay.
But to
Hang
your
hang
point
on
about
for
the
a
dog
second, because
across
I honestly, I've been getting a little bit dizzy right now thinking about this. I'm not sure who I'm actually talking to right now. Because you're both talking about the same thing. It's going back and forth, and I'm just having a difficult time. I think I have owner and co-owner in front of me.
Yeah, what?
Owner and co-owner.
Yes.
Okay. Please go on before I have my next question.
Go ahead.
You want me to, I was just gonna say, the dog across the street, if it's not supervised, might bark for a lot longer than our dog because of the enrichment specialist.
Mhm. So Fort Lauderdale, you've mentioned that. I apologize, I haven't actually dug deep enough right now. The facility that you're talking about for Central Bark in Fort Lauderdale, what is the proximity that they have to, say, somebody, a resident on Castle Road?
It was closer. Yeah, I don't have the report in front of me, but it is posted online, and one of the bullet points specifically says that there's a residential area right next door.
Okay, I'm done.
Any other questions from town board?
No.
Okay, then if you guys can move over to the side table. Do we have individuals who wish to speak on this application coming up?
Good evening. I'm Bridget O'Toole. I'm an attorney with Heath and O'Toole. I'm here on behalf of 7175 Saginaw Drive LLC. I have a letter that I gave to all of you this evening. Apologies on that being so late. I just want to point out that this is not like your neighborhood dog. This is 100 dogs or 40 dogs outside, and that noise is not linear. It's logarithmic. So every decibel you go up, it goes up by intensity. And the reason why I'm saying this is because it is not for me, it's not for the town board, and it's not for the applicant to guess or to use an iPhone app as to what noise impact there's going to be. It's really important that this board, either before deciding on the special use permit application, require a noise study and mitigation plan, or at a minimum, condition its approval on submission of an approval of appropriate noise mitigation plan.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
When your applicant went in, did they have to submit a noise plan?
They're not planning to have 100 dogs.
Nope, they're doing, what did they do?
There is storage, there is.
So when a truck comes in and those trucks back up and they go beep, 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 was there a noise study for that? How about for the car wash? Do you think there was a noise study for the car wash?
Supervisor Schultz, noise is a relevant
I
situation for
under-
seeker purposes.
I understand that, but my point is, as a town board, we're required to treat businesses fairly and equally and equitably. And I'm just curious, my point is, if we required all these other people to submit noise, or if there was evidence that we saw that this is going to be a big problem, again, all through, I think it was yours, you keep bringing up Camp Bow Wow. There hasn't been a single noise complaint in our entire recorded history, which goes back to 2006, I believe. So the idea that this is automatically going to be a noise complaint, I get it. I get that they're concerned. I haven't seen the evidence that says there is going to be a noise issue. Green Valley K-9 is immediately adjacent to residences, like right across the street. You can see them right out their back windows. Not a single noise complaint since they've gone in. So when that one came in, there was not a noise study required by the town board for that. So like I said, we've looked at this. We've looked at some of the other studies. I get what you're asking. I just don't necessarily agree that it is a requirement of a town board to ask for a noise study. Unless there's evidence. So for instance, if this was a stamping plant, then I could see that argument because every stamping plant I've been at has been very noisy. Internal, when you go into a kennel, especially, can it get noisy? It can. It depends on the kennel. It depends on the operators. That doesn't automatically mean it's going to be noisy, but yes, inside, can it get noisy? It can, but from a town code standpoint, that's not our job. It's the effect of this property on the adjacent properties.
And respectfully, the standard for seeker is potentially significant environmental impact. Noise is a potentially significant environmental impact here. The threshold is extremely low. And, my client is not asking this board to deny a special use permit. We're asking for appropriate conditions. And the reason why is because it's so that we avoid any problems in the future. In that good fences make good neighbors, good permit conditions make good neighbors.
And we have those conditions on this application.
And, respectfully, Supervisor Schultz, we haven't seen those because you haven't published your decision yet. So I don't know what you're looking.
That's actually been not true. It's been published. It's up there. We haven't made a decision. We have the proposed, but the proposed resolution has been online for quite some time, which contains conditions. Have they been altering slightly as we've gotten new evidence? Absolutely. But there are, and again, as we get to this and we read it, we will read all the conditions that we're potentially placing on this. And I don't know up or down which way it's going to go. I'm just telling you that there are conditions on it. There are, and I've mentioned some of them already. I actually mentioned some of them at the last public hearing. In fact, I think I mentioned 6 or 8 of them. So I don't agree with your assertion that we've not discussed any of them. Again, is it in final form? No, because the point of seeker is we're supposed to listen to the stuff that's coming in and hear the evidence. So
yes, so we're asking for additional conditions above
Sure.
and beyond what has already been discussed. And my comment was that you have not made a final resolution yet, so the conditions are not finalized.
correct.
In terms of, briefly touching on the waste contaminated runoff issue, the difference between this and animals in your backyard is that most people do not have 40 dogs in their yard. Yes, this is a perk system. However, the difference between that and traditional septic is that there's a primary containment system before it perks. That's not proposed here. And all of these things are things that can be and should be addressed by appropriate professional credentials. I really hope that everything that the applicant said, and I truly believe that the applicant believes in what they're saying and they are being forthright with you, but without the appropriate technical expertise here, there's no guarantee. So I'm just asking that you condition this approval on subsequent studies that your engineering department is going to go through.
So I will note that with all of our building approval, any stormwater type runoff stuff does require approval by our engineering staff. Depending on the size of it, it also goes to the planning board. So like if you're doing a whole subdivision, that's typically in front of the whole planning board. That is not a common practice for a single property. That typically is handled by the Department of Engineering and Planning, who is a licensed professional engineer who has expertise in that
Yep. And
stormwater management.
I'm just encouraging that be a condition.
It's already on there.
Great. Well, unless there are any other questions about my comments, I will let
Anyone else have any questions on it?
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
You bet.
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Tom Borshoff, and I'll be very brief. I did submit a letter. From my perspective, I'd rather voice my views ahead of approval than coming to the town after the fact. It's in that spirit. I want to emphasize that I hope the applicants get approved. And my perspective is that with appropriate processes and input, everybody can be happy. So I'm exercising my opportunity to try to provide that input. With that said, I believe the applicants have suggested that the noise level will be at 75. I'm not sure that's precisely decibels. I'm not sure that's precisely what they said. And that would be the impact on what's my primary concern, and that's the little green space for relaxation that exists at the property that I own, 71, 73, and 75 Saginaw. My perspective is that 75 decibels is an average, which means it could be higher and lower. It is a fairly loud amount of noise to hear in a picnic table relaxation area. My perspective is that what should be provided here is, in addition to arborvitae, as was suggested, that, and I'm not sure this would work, but if a solid wall was also put in front of or behind the arborvitae, would that reduce that decibel level by a few decibels? Again, my understanding as a layperson is that each decibel is a significant reduction in what the ear perceives as the volume of sound. So in everybody trying to be a winner here, and my trying to not complain after the fact, I'm saying, should the process say, gee, folks, would it cost you a lot of money to put up an 8-foot fence in addition to arborvitae to reflect some of that sound to the benefit of the next door neighbor? In the same, and I don't know the answer, it's just the spirit.
So, I mean, they're already putting up an 8-foot fence around the outside thing. You know, basically what happens if we come out, if they've done the stuff and it's not contained, then we can approach them about putting additional up. Because again, one of their requirements for any property is that they're not essentially inconveniencing, that's right in the town code from our noise ordinance, that they're not essentially inconveniencing the neighboring properties. Now, do you have a right to utter silence? You don't.
No,
Right, especially in an industrial zone, right? But, you know, like I said, if so, you know, they have said that they're going to be good neighbors and work with the town, and like, you know, if it doesn't happen, if this resolution goes back through, we won't be able to throw them in jail, but we would be able to fine them if they were in violation of noise. I suspect rather than be fined, that their response would be, we'd rather than pay a fine, we'd rather build a fence, a wall, whatever. So there, you know, anything you put in will help mitigate sound to some extent. So, you know, if it is discovered, so the fact that it is a masonry building versus the metal buildings, if this were a metal building, that would be a big issue because those act essentially as a drum. Masonry buildings don't move easily from sound vibrations. I will note that going back to this, it wasn't a stamping plant by any means, which are really concussive, but we had a metal fabricating plant, I don't know, 1,000 feet from my house. When those doors were shut, you didn't know they were operating. If they opened that garage door, it was a cacophony of sound. So it was a masonry building. It does make a big difference. So this goes back to why we put on a condition that those garage doors remain closed. And as I've already stated to them, if we find that they are, because they're currently uninsulated, if they are acting like a drum, we will require that they be insulated. It's just, you know, it's one of these things that was going back to my comments to the attorney. We take a look at You guys have raised a lot of good points. We've made these in terms of potential adverse conditions. We require the applicant to mitigate them. If we believe they have mitigated them to the satisfaction of the town board, that then basically the way it works is it passes seeker and we typically approve. In terms of if that doesn't end there though, if going forward, they're doing, let's say that somebody decides later that, you know what, we're going to leave the doors open, then we can go back to the special use permit. We can potentially fine them. And if they don't respond, adequately, they could even potentially lose their certificate of occupancy because they're now in violation of their special use permit.
Yes.
So those requirements, like I said, we put those on there. It does. This goes back to, again, I don't see from a sound standpoint a need to do this massive study up front, right? Let's be honest. Like you said, do you know what 75 decibels even relates to? What are some other things that are 75 decibels? You know, is it sustained? Is it?
I can answer that. If you're within a short distance of a piano and somebody's really pounding on that piano,
Right.
That's a good comparison. And so I say if 75 decibels is crossing the property line and it's at the volume of a continuous piano, I say to myself, on a frequent
Sure.
basis, that's really.
But I'll point out that 75 is, I believe what they were saying is that's at the source. So one of the other things is you also have
I'm in
the
agreement.
inverse square law. So by the time it reaches your property
I'm in agreement.
with
and-
all the other, so what it really gets down to is you can do all the study you want. To be honest, the real answer is I'm standing there at your property and how loud is it, right? Is it troublesome noise? And at that point, then we would go back to these gentlemen and say, look, come stand here, listen to this. This is a problem.
Okay.
You need to resolve it, right? It doesn't make sense to do this exhaustive study up front, which, let's be honest, without it being specific to those dogs, without it being specific to that building, the amount of stuff in between. I will tell you, as someone who's done some of this research, now we did an imaging, which is a little easier to model, but
It's hard stuff.
And it is guesswork.
Expensive stuff.
It is, and it's guesswork. And when it really comes down to, you know, is ultimately, is it, and this is basically what the town code talks about too, is it negatively impacting you, that sound? If it is, they will be required to attenuate that sound. There's different ways to do that. If it's not negatively impacting this neighboring properties, they won't be required to attenuate the sound. But, you know, with some of the stuff we can guess up front, right? That if they open those doors, especially one of the other things that happens with the masonry building, and I don't know if they're going to put sound attenuation on the walls for their own purposes, but we have this problem at the rec center, right? You got masonry walls or glass walls and a metal ceiling. When people talk in there on a microphone, it's hard to understand them because the amount of reverb that you get, right? If that's what the inside is and you suddenly open that garage door, it's going to be a lot of sound out. We know that. So we put on it there as a requirement. They can't open that door during keep that door open during normal operations. They can open it for delivery and that's about it. You know, so there are certain things that are obvious, certain things that we can take from the studies already provided and take a look at the procedures that they've talked about and put in place. And some of those, we reinforce those with a condition, even though they've offered these anyways, they're going to do them by making them a condition. This goes back to if they ever sell the business and someone else takes it, because those conditions stay with the property, we can then require the new owners to meet those same requirements. Or else again, they lose their special use permit, which means they lose their certificate of occupancy or their ability to operate that business.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate your comments and I hear them very well. And so my understanding from what I'm hearing is that I should take comfort that as a part of the approval process, whether formal or informal, there's a condition that this not be unreasonably disruptive and annoying to an adjacent neighbor. And to the degree that it turns out differently, the town will not leave the neighbor out to hang to dry, for lack of a more polished expression. And I should take comfort in that.
That is correct. And we appreciate you guys coming in because again, that's part of the whole purpose of these public hearings is to get the feedback. Because we can guess some of the impacts, but again, I didn't know you used an outdoor relaxation area out there, right? A lot of times when people think of a industrial area, they think of it being noisier. Some of it depends, as you and other neighbors have pointed out, depends who is currently located there and that type of stuff in terms of, you know, are we going to expect it to be like or a cemetery quiet?
Right.
No, but you know,
understand.
it's still right. You have a
understand.
reasonable expectation. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pull up the actually, Becky, do you know if the resolution is in its own? Because I know there were some last minute changes. Is that resolution in the main packet or is it somewhere else?
It's in the main packet,
Main
Steve, when I
packet,
just
the
looked at
first one.
Is that correct, Becky?
That is correct.
Okay, I wasn't sure if they'd gotten a chance to fold it back into the main one. So I'm going to read some of the conditions that were put on as a result of your guys' discussion. So these are the conditions. That this special use approval is limited to that use specifically applied for in accordance with and detailed in the application materials, including as proposed by the applicant. That this facility shall be limited to a maximum capacity of 91 dogs total, including both daycare and boarding, and including both indoors and outdoors. That the outdoor yard shall be limited to a maximum capacity of 40 dogs total, with no more than 40 dogs permitted in the outdoor yard at any point in time. That the garage doors are to be limited in use such that they only be used for deliveries to the facility necessitating use of the garage doors and shall otherwise remain closed. That the facility will operate in accordance with codes such that it is operated in a manner that complies with the prohibition against noxious, offensive, or injurious conditions, including odors. In order to comply with such code, the applicant has proposed will operate such facility in a manner to be kept clean of urine, feces, or other waste, including regular removal of waste both indoors as out and outdoors, so as to protect both the dogs at the facility and to minimize or eliminate odors emanating from the waste material. 2, the outdoor yard will have an opaque fence installed around its perimeter with a minimum height of 6 feet. Now they've offered 8. For all the purposes of facilitating the mitigation of any potential visual or sound impacts of the dogs in the outdoor yard. 3, prior to obtaining a building permit or otherwise using the outdoor yard area for dogs, the existing surface of the area to be used as a dog yard will be excavated and a permeable base of stone, gravel, sand, and other material of at least 6-inch depth will be installed beneath a permeable artificial turf in the yard, allowing surface runoff, e.g. from rain, to dissipate into the ground, all subject to review and approval by the Director of Engineering and Planning. Should the Director of Engineering and Planning determine that a revised drainage solution would be more appropriate and or more effective, the applicant shall implement the same subject to approval of the Director of Engineering and Planning. The excavation is implemented to address dog safety, and the drainage plans are to protect against odor yard runoff from carrying into nearby properties. So I'll note this dog safety. There was a concern raised early on that there might be potentially harmful chemicals in the soil from the previous industrial use. 4, prior to commencing operations, the floor in the buildings will be cleaned and sealed with a dog-safe surface coating, tiling, or similar floor treatment so as to benefit the safety of the dogs, all as offered by the applicant and pursuant to its application materials. So again, same concern because of the previous industrial use. 5, prior to commencing operations, sound insulation shall be installed in the building, all as offered by the applicant during the public hearing and pursuant to its application materials. 6, the existing vegetative wooded buffer to the north shall not be removed as it will act as a visual noise buffer. Visual/noise buffer. 7, the facility shall operate in accordance with the town's noise ordinance. So all those are right in there. And again, if they repeatedly violate the noise issue, we basically can say to them, you need to fix this and resolve this, or else you can potentially lose your license to operate.
May I have another 60 seconds, please?
Sure.
And I'm repeating something I said, but the town's noise ordinance to operate outside of that, my understanding is that in an industrially zoned area, that's 75 decibels. And if that's what's crossing the property line, and I use a comparison of a piano next to you and having to listen to that on a fairly consistent basis, that would seem to me to be objectionable. I don't know factually that 75 is the town's level. I took that from the applicant's written materials. I view that as what they were submitting as a standard that they would have to comply with.
I don't know that that's factual correct. I didn't think so.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, okay, fine. I'm
Yeah.
I'm better then.
Yep.
Okay. Lastly, for my therapy, I was only going to suggest that in addition to perhaps a solid barrier on the property line, that's my understanding that in addition to sound barriers, absorption material can be very beneficial. And if it doesn't come to work like it's suggested, again, and trying to be a good neighbor and have it work instead of a problem.
Sure.
The inclusion of absorption material to reduce the decibels reaching.
So again, right now, from
I heard you
I'm an
before.
engineer, but I'm not a sound engineer. But
Yeah.
from what I'll look at this, I don't expect there to be a noise issue. But again, if there is a noise issue, they will need to resolve it, whether that's additional insulation interior, exterior, along between your property. Somehow they're going to have to solve it. So I don't want to dictate it up front to solve a problem that
Doesn't exist.
right, that doesn't exist currently. So but because they have to essentially, as part of their special use permit, they have to comply with the noise. That gives, for lack of a better way to put it, that gives us a stick to make sure that they are compliant, which should, to use your words, help you rest easier.
Thank you very much.
bet.
Appreciate your patience.
Mhm.
Good luck, folks.
Yep.
I would just offer one piece of information. I did look into a couple weeks ago how to mitigate on a wall. And I don't think there will be a problem, as you said, I agree. But should there be, with the 8-foot solid fence, you can get materials they're using construction sites. They're like quilts, only they have a special material. I don't remember the material right now. And you can hang them 8 foot and you can put them, so there are ways to mitigate.
Yeah.
Also, your tree barrier in the north, I think you mean the west and the north. The property,
To the west is the other building.
well, the northwestern,
Sure, whatever. When I look at it on the maps, it's to the north.
okay,
I don't know.
we're good with what you're saying.
Okay.
I want to thank you for your forbearance in dealing with my questions tonight. And would like to also say that Perdon't plays Syracuse this weekend, so
Go Syracuse.
we hope it goes in the right direction.
Is there anybody else who wishes to speak? Come on up.
My name's Chris Cieslak. I'm the landlord, owner of the building. I own about 225,000 square feet of commercial buildings in the town of Henrietta, and we strive to be great neighbors at all our properties. We maintain quality properties at all the locations, and we have great tenants. Some of them being Diamond Packaging, Caliber Collision, Verizon, Sonapar Electric, Vulcan Beverage, and Harold Levinson Associates, and hopefully our new tenant here. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? And hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing for special use permit application number 2023-032. Hold on while I switch back to the other. OneDrive. There we go. Oh, it's gonna go back. Okay. Sorry. Fellow board members, I have resolution 18-307/2023 to approve special use permit application number 2023-032 for a proposed dog daycare and boarding facility to be located at 65 Saginaw Drive.
Second.
So I won't bother to reread all of the list of conditions. You heard them. But basically this, like I said, this resolution includes all those conditions. Any further comment or question?
No.
And hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Zafranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Congratulations. I know it was a slog. I know it's a lot of work. But you know, again, that's part of the process is to try to get the stuff in while minimizing the impact on the neighbor. So thanks to everybody who participated in this.
Appreciate your
We've-
thoroughness
Yep.
and commitment to the process.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Would love a tour.
Yeah, how, when do you
When
think you'll
you-
be operational?
We're hoping by December.
We'd love a
Fantastic.
tour once you open up, just to see what it's all about.
Yep.
Would love
Love
to.
to, love to give you a tour. Absolutely.
And again, same thing. You've got my email. Let me know. I'll hook you up with the Chamber of Commerce. You can do a ribbon cutting, whole 9 yards.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that concludes our special use permits and other public hearings. At this point, I have to go to another meeting. And so I'm going to hand the gavel over to Mr. Page to go through the resolutions. I
Very good.
will note that this is the updated.
I got it.
Okay, yep. We have an updated for the special use permit application. As we've talked about, we are not planning to pass the local law with regards to the removal of imprisonment due to the changes, the modifications that were made since it was first put forward. So we will re-advertise for that, repost it.
Is that on here?
No, it's not on there
Okay.
because we're not doing it.
Good. That's what.
And this is, what's this?
it's done.
If I may, Supervisor, we have a new liaison from the school board that is present, and she'd like to have the opportunity to quickly introduce herself.
Sure, that'd be great.
Good evening. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I'll be brief. I think most of us have met. I'm Rachel Sherman. I'm on the Rush Henrietta School District Board of Education, and I am in my 3rd year of service, and I am proud to be the board's liaison appointed to liaise with the town of Henrietta. So please think of me as a resource to you. If I can help with information or answer any questions that you have, I'd be pleased to do so. I want to say how proud I am of this town, and I especially want to applaud you all for the new town motto. I think that, a town for all. Thank you. Sorry. It just, for some reason, I was like, wait, what's the motto? Because it does resonate deeply within me, and it dovetails, I think, with the district's theme for our year. And I think it's the theme for our decade, which is you belong here. So if you haven't been out to any school functions lately, I invite you to come to our concerts, come to our sporting events, take every opportunity that you can to be in the hallways, especially those who don't work there or have formerly worked at the Rush Henrietta School District. But we just want to let you know we appreciate your partnership. There are many ways that the town and the school district partners for the good of our community and for our students. So thank you for your work and thank you for this opportunity to address you this evening. Are there any questions that I can answer?
Thank you very
No,
much.
you
We
so much.
appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
for coming
Thank
in.
you. Have a good night.
I have one question that's serious. Who was the better kindergarten student in Mrs. Levinson's room? You or me?
I looked into that. It was.
Well.
It was Rachel.
Oh, boy, you
The-
guys
the-
were in
the-
kindergarten together. That's
It-
awesome.
It was Rachel.
Oh,
There's
the-
no doubt about by every measure that you can come up with, it was Rachel. I'm happy to finish second in that competition. Welcome to join us.
Okay, well, thank
so
you.
much.
I will note, Mr. Belanca, that Councilmember Belanca, that you were RH class of 1993. I was RH class of 1994. So somewhere along the way, you doubled up on your learning and you got your degree faster than I did.
Well, admittedly, at some point in my life, somebody thought that I was smarter than I actually was. So
Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, let's get started. Fellow board members, when Supervisor Schultz has a resolution to read, we'll share them as long as you don't have to second it as well. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Can we have the first resolution, please, Millie?
Yeah, we're second. Fellow board members, I have resolution number 18-308, 2023 to approve and or ratify the following agreements.
Second. Any comments? Any additions from the workshop? Anybody from the audience? Hearing none, I'll ask to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye.
Fellow board members, I have resolution number 18-309/2023 to authorize bills payable and any associated contracts or agreements for September 6, 2023 through today, September 13th, 2023.
Seconded.
Any comments? I only have one comment and I'm never going to do the bills again when all the books are there. Wow.
It's inevitable.
I knew that was coming. They
Oh
told
my
me. that.
gosh. Would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution number 18-310, 2023 to initiate the special attention detail program with the Monroe County Sheriff's Office.
Seconded.
Just for a point of information, in our workshop, Captain Fay came and shared with us that he expects the new officer that will be named as our town constable to be operational sometime in October, I believe.
Okay,
Yes.
So we're looking
23rd.
forward to that.
great. It's a long time in coming.
Yep. Any other comments?
Just also as a point that there is an updated version to that resolution.
Absolutely. Years ago, we used to read every resolution, every word.
So long ago. I guess Lisa and I got lucky.
That's true. Yes, you did. Please call the roll.
And I'll just note for anyone who's listening, the updated resolution has been uploaded to the website. So what's on the website is the latest and greatest.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Safranik.
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye.
Fellow board members, I have resolution number 18-311, 2023 to declare intent to be lead agency for coordinated seeker review of a proposed senior housing apartment complex for Legacy Phase 4.
Seconded.
Any comments? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner.
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye.
I'll read the next one again. Fellow board members, I have resolution number 18-312, 2023 to approve a replacement garage for the historical property at 5489 West Henrietta Road.
Second.
Any comments from the audience? No? Okay.
I'll just make one comment that this went through the Historical Site Committee and they reviewed the proposed replacement, found it to be in the style and character compatible, and they sent through their approval for this.
Thank you. I love these historic sites in our town.
Yes, they do a fabulous job.
Any comments from anyone? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner.
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Fellow board members, I have resolution 18-313, 2023 to approve removal of damaged trees from the historic property at 4495 West Henrietta Road.
Second.
And I'll make another comment that this went through the Historical Site Committee. Also, these are a couple trees that if they fall, they could create suitable damage to a cobblestone house that does have a historical designation, and the trees were looked at and they're definitely considered a potential hazard.
And to people as well. Any other comments? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye.
Fellow board members, I have resolution number 18-314/2023 to call for a public hearing to consider designating 5517 East River Road a historic site.
Seconded.
And I'll make another comment. I apologize. I am the liaison to the Historical Site Committee, so I just want to add a couple little things in here. This is really exciting. This house was just honored with the 2023 Architectural Heritage Award. And in doing so, they realized the potential of getting a historical site designation. So the Historical Site Committee is working with them on this. The committee is very excited about this, and thanks to the hard work of our committee, we're going to have another historical site home.
It's
A designated home. So it's really exciting.
it is.
And one of the really interesting things about this house, so I'll just read it a little further because it's a two-story bungalow called the Detroit. It was built in 1914 and it was a kit home. It was ordered from Aladdin Ready Cut Houses. So it's just kind of exciting that we have this going on in our town. And again, thanks to the Historical Site Committee for all they do.
And I'll add, did anybody see the price tag on that house when it was sent over? It was in the three figures, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Gary.
$89 buys
What
you
was
a
the
house. in
price?
Henrietta.
No. Yeah,
Oh,
it was
wow.
amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's the only kit house in Henrietta, isn't it?
They were aware.
Yeah. Sears Roebuck didn't even have that. Any other comments? Thank you, Councilwoman Bolsner, for all your help with the background on that. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution number 18-315, 2023 to adopt the 2024 fee schedules.
Seconded.
Any comments? I was amazed at the list of fees and the different things that our staff does. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
Amazing. Hearing no other comments, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner.
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye.
Fellow board members, I have resolution number 18-316, 2023 to authorize change order number 1 for increased costs to the sewer and drainage garage, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing project due to the installation of additional electrical and mechanical items.
Second.
Go for it.
Ooh.
All yours.
That was like a trio.
It's not unusual with projects that large to have change orders. That's actually was pretty small change order, actually. And certainly needed. Any other comments? Chris, you all set? Okay.
It just, I was not at workshop and I was just wondering if I could just get a quick summary of why this change order was required?
I don't have my sheet with me, so I'm gonna have to do this from memory. And Craig, certainly, I know you'll pipe up if I'm wrong. One was for an electrical service. Initially, we thought we could come from the existing transformer,
Ah,
but that was not the case. So instead of going to the transformer, we had to go a little bit further
okay,
and go into the DPW facility.
gotcha.
The second one, or one of the other ones was, for the gas service. I think we ran a full gas service from the sewer garage, the new sewer garage to the existing, or well, to the other building for the parks and facility.
Okay,
So that was an additional. There was two other electrical ones. Oh, one was for lighting. On the plans originally, they had a suspended ceiling.
mhm,
And what was installed was a drywall ceiling. So the lights had to be modified, or a different type of fixture had to be used for that. So that was one of the reasons for that change order. And then there's the fourth one, which I am drawing a blank on. Do you remember, Craig?
The fourth one was the electrical service for the actual parks building as well, but due to, I hate to say, inaccuracy in the plans. No, we were able to actually reconfigure some of the utilities that were being stipulated for the sewer garage. We made some changes that we were able to do those same services for the parks building, which weren't really set to be done yet. The electric service for the parks garage was put in when the temp service was installed for the sewer garage, and then we rerouted that to the parks building. So we were able to kind of save that temporary work and use it for the parks building while we were temporary electric providing it to the building. And then the gas service was just a quick addition. Once we got it in, we were able to, well, let's take gas over there too. And for 70 feet or 50 feet, we were able to provide a whip or tail over to the other building to provide gas to that service. So those are really two of the main additions, was to be able to add those services at the same time.
I see.
And the other ones were the other change orders that Chris mentioned that were just little alterations to the plans, things
Yeah.
that changed.
Yeah, so
Thank-
really we got some little more bang from our buck, because we were able to provide services to the building, the other building, or parks and facilities building that we wouldn't have otherwise, which would have costed.
Right. But
Thanks.
doing it at the same time frame did make it a lot cheaper than doing it later, albeit at a cost to this project.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
it. Yeah, thank you.
Good team.
Very, very nice explanation. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner.
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution number 18-317, 2023, to declare items surplus materials from the drainage, sidewalk, and buildings grounds maintenance departments and consigned to the Teetsworth
Yep.
Municipal Auction. Mhm.
Second,
Any comments? I don't think it was an extensive list, as I remember, but because it was paid for with public money, we have to make sure that we get rid of it in the appropriate way. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
aye.
Councilmember Bolsner.
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye.
Fellow board members, I have resolution 18-318, 2023, to return unused monies from a 2022 project to purchase heavy machinery from the capital project fund to the highway and sewer funds.
Second. Our CFO loves when the money's returned. It's a great thing. Any comments from the board? Anybody? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye.
Fellow board members, I have resolution number 18-319/2023 to authorize the supervisor to accept and sign the application for the Justice Court Assistance Program grant application.
Seconded.
Any comments?
No, I think we've been able to apply for this for several years, so I think it's been a great addition to our town court.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else? Please call the roll, Becky.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution number 18-320, 2023 to hire personnel and to make the attached change.
Seconded.
Questions or concerns? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye.
Now, is this last amendment, is this? No, this is the one
That's a
that we are
secret.
reading.
Yeah,
Yep,
it's a
yep,
secret one.
Seeker update. Mhm.
I'm sorry.
There was the one proposed local law hearing, the one to remove the imprisonment as a punishment
Yeah.
for code violations, which we're not doing tonight.
Right.
But the other one is fine to do.
Fellow board members, I have resolution number 18-321. Do you ever feel like you're in a clown car? It's like we're all going off on each other here, like which one is talking and who's doing what. It's just a joke. I apologize. Let's start again. I have resolution number 18-321, 2023 to adopt local law number 8 of 2023 to amend the town code relating to environmental quality review.
Second. Any questions? Any concerns? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye.
Does anybody have any committee reports or any other information they would like to put on the record?
I'd just like to mention again, seeing Henrietta Through Your Eyes, that contest is going on right now and entries are due by November 23rd. So please get your entries in. There's a couple classes that are going to be held at the library. Please check the calendar. One is a painting along with your favorite painter, and that's Wednesday, September 20th at 6 p.m. The other is Beyond the Lens, a journey of reflection and connection through personal photography project. And that's the Faces of Ukraine. And that one is September 21st at 7 p.m. So check the calendar at the library and see all the upcoming events. They have some amazing things that they do there.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd like to report that coming up on October 28th is going to be Make a Difference Day. And I think it is going to be the biggest and most inclusive that has ever been happened here in Rush Henrietta. Obviously, 2 towns involved. There have been, I would say, more proposals to do good than you can possibly imagine that have been brought before the youth board. And now it's a process of winnowing down what can we actually accomplish and what are our dreams. But it's going to be a fantastic day. We're hoping that the weather cooperates so we can use some of the outdoor facilities of the high school. But we have the indoor capability also. And from Parks and Recreation, I'd like to say that the Tinker Honey Harvest Festival is happening on September 22nd. Honey harvesting, cider press demonstrations, live music, an impersonator of Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. I, of course, am going to have a lot of questions to ask because, as all of you know, The Wizard of Oz is an allegory about angry farmers at the beginning of the 1900s.
Who didn't have a brain?
Who didn't have a brain, whose shoes were silver, who followed the gold standard to the Wizard of Oz, who wasn't a wizard. But beyond that, also complimentary donuts and cider, and I think it's going to be a great time for everybody. Thank you.
Joe, what's the date on the Make a Difference Day again?
October 28th.
Okay, I thought you said October 28th and I was like, wow, that's a ways away.
Yep, and honestly, as I'm getting back into school brain in mode, every month is kind of the same to me for a little while. So October 28th, yeah.
Thank you.
I attended the fire commissioners meeting last night, only to find out that they postponed it till next week. So I'll be there next week. Anything else?
No.
Thank you to our interpreters for a job well done. And I take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn our meeting?
Second.
So adjourned. Becky, we'll do 7